Good morning, everybody. Welcome to SPA. Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to SPA-FRANCORCHAMPS for the third weekend of the 2018 Euroformula Open Championship season. It's a very warm welcome from Ben Evans as you join us with qualifying underway for the fifth race of the season around the home of the Belgian Grand Prix. And as you can see, you join us on a somewhat overcast morning. The drivers have got 30 minutes to play with. They have just done a couple of sighting laps, and it is the man who was setting the pace in free practice yesterday, Carlin's Cameron Das, who is currently the pace setter for the session. In terms of the championship though, it's the Brazilian PRP Motorsport team Felipe Drugovich who leads the way. Drugovich having claimed victory in both races last time out in Paul Ricard. He's won 3 of the 4 encounters so far this season, and as a result he comes into the weekend, and there he is with a fairly commanding championship lead over his compatriot for Carlin, Mateus Iorio. Iorio, however, has had 3 podiums from 4 races and is second standings clear of Marcus Siebert for the Campos team. The Argentine Siebert, the only other driver to have won a race so far this season. That came in race 2 in Estoril. But yesterday, Felipe Drugovich wasn't even in the top 5 in terms of times in testing. He's just looking to jink to the inside of teammate Michael Benyaya as they turn through La Source and then begin the steep run downhill towards Eau Rouge before climbing out of Les Combes, or rather to Radion, on to the Kemmel Straight, and then that gradual climb towards the chicane at Les Combes. It's a circuit that always produces great racing in the Euroformula Open as Cameron Das reels off another lap. That is the quickest time of the session thus far, 2 minutes 13.070. Now, what we normally see in the Euroformula Open is that the drivers will go out on a slightly older set of Michelin tyres for the first half of the session, get themselves and the car dialed in, and then put on a new set of rubber for the final few laps of the qualifying period. However, it is, well, as you can see, very murky and misty this morning. It's really damp in the air. A little bit of drizzle actually just before we kicked off the session, so that is going to be worth keeping tabs on. Don't think we've got rain forecast this morning. However, the weather forecast for this afternoon is probably best charitably described as all over the place, because it might be clear, it might at the same time be thundery and wet as well. In terms of the changes to the field since we last met in Paul Ricard, well, Lennart Hogenboom moves to the RP Motorsport team, and Alvaro Festante vacates his seat at the RP Motorsport team and moves across to Fortec. Otherwise, they are as they were in France, as Fortec's Callan Williams just heading Cameron Das. This slightly slower lap for Das as he's heading out through Stavelot and Blanchimont for that sprint down towards the bus stop chicane. This is a circuit where they can really open up the throttle and push, but corner exit speed all important, because these cars, relatively speaking, feel a little bit more grip than power, and therefore they need to try and trim out as much error as possible. As you can see there, very, very shallow profile to the rear wing of the Carlin car of Cameron Das. And Das pursues Callan Williams across the line. They all flash through. No improvement there for Das. He is 0.7 of a second over clear of Felipe Drugovich, who's just posted his best of the session. Ben Viscal in 3rd for the Teo Martin Motorsport team. And Viscal, the top rookie, not only in this session, but the season thus far. He's claimed rookie honours in all 4 races so far this season. Marcus Siebert in 5th, ahead of Guilherme Samaya, and then Janis Fitcher, who leads the Drivex charge in 6th. There, a very brief glimpse of the German. He is being pursued by the Austrian, Lucas Dunner, his Drivex teammate, and then Guilherme Samaya, Callan Williams, and Cameron Das as they tip their way through Les Combes. Just over a third of the way through the session as Das kicks the tail. The Carlin car running downhill towards the Bruxelles hairpin. Very, very steep drop downhill all the way really to this point in the circuit, which is the exit of Poumont. There is Ben Viscal. Now Viscal has just set the fastest first sector of the session. He is pursuing the American Yves Baltas as Baltas takes a little bit of a bite of curb. They're about to enjoy that sprint back towards the pits, and Viscal slightly adrift through the middle sector, indeed a couple of tenths drift of Marcus Seibert. Now Seibert is there, third in the queue, just behind Michael Ben-Yaya. So there's potentially going to be a little bit of shuffling in the order. We've got a yellow flag as well. Oh, that's a huge instant for somebody who's buried behind our timing column and the tyre wall, but there is a lot of damage that has been incurred there as the car went and made contact. We'll try and work out whom that is momentarily. It's through Fagnes where the incident has happened. Theo Martin watches the timing screen. It's not his driver, Ben Viscal. Let's see. Oh, it's Christian Hahn who's gone off, and he's dinked the front right corner of the car, left his nose cone in the gravel trap, and Christian Hahn, the Trivex team, he was on his best lap of the session until that happened. That, not unsurprisingly, is spurring quite a few of them to duck into the pits. As Callum Williams plunges downhill. It's just been a very good lap from the Australian. He's just gone 6th with a 2 minutes 14.039. As he holds the throttle and his nerve uphill through Eau Rouge and Radion on to the Kemmel Straight. In the murk in the background, still the pace setter for the session, Cameron Das. Mateus Iorio is currently 2nd. 3rd, Ben Viscal. 4th, Felipe Drugovich. 5th is Alex Karkozic. Karkozic having made the switch across to the Campos team in advance of the Paul Ricard round. Now this is coming down out of Poumont. Michael Ben-Yaya into Fagnes. This is where we've got the yellow flag, of course, covering the recovery of Christian Hahn's car. There you have it. So that means that they should, in theory, back off a little bit. And therefore, we wouldn't be expecting to see too much in the way of improved times at this phase of the session. And as I say, I wouldn't be entirely unsurprised if many of them took the opportunity at this juncture to peel into the pits, have a bit of a pause and bolt on a fresh set of tyres before they set the grid in the second half of the session as Felipe Drugovich closes up onto the tail of teammate Michael Ben-Yaya into the chicane, which Ben-Yaya backs out of and peels into the pit lane. Drugovich continues on his way. Out La Source, down towards Eau Rouge. Felipe Drugovich, no wonder he continued. He set the fastest 3rd sector of anybody in the session on that previous lap. It's enough to elevate him into 3rd place, a 2 minutes 13.643. However, still almost 6 tenths adrift of the pace that was set by Cameron Das early in the session. Now, somewhere in the gloom, there is the RP Motorsport car of Drugovich. The Brazilian moves down through the gears, turning through Les Combes. He may well be informed by the team that the yellow flag has retreated now over at Fagnes as Ben Viscal gets a new set of tyres. They all run, of course, on the Control Compound Michelin tyre, which great performance, and in particular for the entertainment in these qualifying sessions, has a really sweet spot where they can set the best times with, but it's only going to last them 2 or 3 laps here around Spa-Francorchamps. Possibly the window being slightly extended because it's not quite as warm today as it could have been the case. Just a check of tyre temperatures and tyre pressures for Cameron Das and the Carlin team, who were victorious here 12 months ago with Amer Weidenheithen at the wheel, looking to claim their first trip to the top step of the podium of the 2018 campaign. Indeed, Weidenheithen's victory was the last time. I think that Carlin scored a win as Weidenheithen, the 2018 champion, was 2nd. 2 minutes 13.643. 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 2 minutes 13 Felipe Drugovich accelerating towards the end of this lap through Blanchimont. Here's another look at Christian Hahn's instant, and a hefty impact of the tyre wall. You just caught a glimpse of the car almost being hoisted up onto two wheels as he actually came up against that tyre barrier, but the safety structures of the Lara F312 chassis doing exactly what they needed to. Just means the Drivex team have got a fair amount of work to do between now and the race later on this afternoon. As Felipe Drugovich peels into the pit lane, the news comes through on that timing screen that he has lost the time that you see at the bottom of your picture, because he set that under a yellow flag. And as we were saying a few moments ago, you shouldn't really be improving under yellow flag conditions. The race direction feeling exactly the same. So Drugovich to a halt in the pit lane. The RP Motorsport team get to work, hoist up the Brazilian's car, and then get to work changing the tyres. All the while, of course, the clock ticks down the session. And given that we're looking at a lap time in the region of just shy of 2¼ minutes for a flying lap, with the out laps or thereabouts, there you can see, please see in the white suit, Christian Hahn out of the car. He's completely okay. Suggest the same can't be said for his machinery. And Hahn at that point was 10th in the session. He remains in 10th position, but with fresh tyres, there's a likelihood that he might be overhauled a little bit. Matheus Iorio, second in the championship for the Brazilian driver with the Carlin team. Iorio having a superb weekend in Paul Ricard, a third and a second place. The driver who finished 9th in the championship last year. And now he knows the circuits, he knows these cars really well. Number 19 car, then Aldo Festante, who was in the thick of the action in Paul Ricard, moving across to the Fortec team to partner Callan Williams. And Williams has been getting better and better with each and every outing. Same for Lucas Dunner, although it was a difficult weekend for the Austrian in France. Not in the points in either of the races. There's a couple of cars running down the pit lane, taking to the circuit for the second half of the session. That's Bent Viscal, who is the first out. Matheus Iorio also venturing to the circuit. I guess there's a risk with all that mist in the air being a little bit slippery. They just want to make sure that they can maybe get a time in the event of a yellow flag or indeed a little bit of precipitation. So the Dutch driver Bent Viscal accelerating along the Kemmel Straight. Viscal, 2 trips to the podium this year for the Teo Martin Motorsport driver. Good enough to have him 4th in the standings, albeit just a single point. Drifter Marcus Siebert. Now don't forget that they do get a point for pole position. So anything that the rest of the field can do to narrow the gap to Felipe Drugovich will be greatly received, one would suggest. Viscal picks his way downhill through the Bruxelles hairpin. Road continuing to fall away through the left-hander on towards Pouhon. Real challenge for the drivers as they turn in, all the while the road dropping away but carrying a huge amount of speed. So Viscal just looks to get some heat into the Michelin tyre. He certainly won't be lining up, we'd expect, for a flying lap at the end of this tour of the circuit. It's more likely to be the lap after that, and that should leave him time for 3 to 4 flying laps, depending on traffic and the like. At least with the length of this Spa-Francorchamps circuit, they are able to find a little bit of space to play with. So out of the Cours Paul Frère on towards Blanchimont. Viscal accelerating into the left-hander. The engine cutting through the Ardennes forest. So Viscal accelerating towards the end of his outlap. The entirety of the field, with the exception of Aldo Festante, now out on circuit. And of course, with the exception of Christian Hahn, who won't be reappearing in the session. So Viscal across the line. Just shy of a third of the qualifying period to go. Ahead of the race, of course, this afternoon. One of the beauties of the Euroformula Open Championship is that each and every race has its own qualifying session, which means that the things don't go to plan on the Saturday, it can all be recovered again on the Sunday. Today's race due to get underway at about 2:15 local time here in Belgium. Scale comes to the end of the first sector. It's not, as we'd have anticipated, a flying lap just yet. It's going to be next time around where he'll really wind it up and start to push. So this lap will probably be in the region of, I don't know, 2:17, 2 minutes 18. Then we'll know if he's on the cusp of going to flying lap if we see maybe a blue or purple sector towards the end of this lap. He's closing up onto the tail of one of the RP Motorsport cars through Pungwon. This is the one risk, of course. Well, that is the big risk of emerging early, is there's this huge queue of traffic which the Teo Martin Motorsport driver is going to look to try and pass. Everybody's staying well clear. So Viscal has got the benefit of an empty circuit. Pretty much the entirety of the field doesn't. So Viscal now picks up the throttle again through this final sector of the lap. And this section of the circuit, much like the first sector, very faithful to the original road layout of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. It was only really in the last 15 years or so that this became a permanent racetrack. So Viscal now arrives into the chicane, 7.5 minutes to run. Kicks through the chicane, and now he should be able to embark on a flying lap. He's got no traffic around him, no benefit of a tow for Viscal, but also no benefit of being caught in a train of cars on the brakes. The Lassour's hairpin picks up the throttle as early as he dares on the exit, just out to the edge of the sausage curb. And then plummeting downhill. The rest of the field all jostling for a little bit of track position. What they'll be hoping for is to get a tow from one of their rivals along the Kemmel Straight, which goes on for an absolute eternity, climbing uphill all the while. And that could be worth a tenth of a second or thereabouts. Meanwhile, Michael Benyard already accelerating through on his way. Felipe Drugovic, likewise, he's got Yanis Ficia tucked up behind him in the Drivex car. I don't think Ficia's going to be quite near enough, though, to Drugovic to take advantage of a tow. And then Callum Williams also chasing. We've got Marcus Seibert, Matthias Jori, I think, just emerging from the pits as Drugovic backs out a lap as well. They've got to be careful here with all this game playing, looking for the right turn track position, because we've only got 6.25 minutes to run, and therefore they are risking culling things mighty fine. Current order is still Cameron Das, who is quickest in the session from Matthias Jori, then Ben Viscal in third. Viscal not improving on the lap on which he's just embarked. There is Len Hergenboom, the newcomer to the RP Motorsport team, making a step up from Formula 4 competition. He is currently 13th in the session. There's a couple of spots of precipitation maybe on our camera over at Bruxelles. At this stage, though, I'd say it's psychological rain rather than full-blown shower, and the drivers might see a spot or two on their visors. It's unlikely to affect the performance of the car too much. But Viscal, his middle sector, not an improvement either. I just wonder if the track conditions, we'll find out in the next couple of minutes, have gone away from the drivers for the second half of the session. Maybe it is a little bit greasy out there. Therefore, those early exchanges could prove to be all important. Because we haven't had a single blue sector since the cars re-emerged from the pits, although that they are on fresh rubber. Viscal is coming to the close of the flying lap. He's just embarked on. Yanis Ficia backs right out of this lap. And that time for Viscal was a 2 minutes 30.7. So maybe he just completely backed out of the lap. Sort of time as the others set in a couple of moments' time. Cameron Das, meanwhile, has peeled into the pits. Callum Williams just runs wide through the chicane. Say the time at 2 minutes 13.070 for Cameron Das is the time to beat. That's just re-emerging into the session from the pits. 4 minutes to run. And based on all the evidence thus far, it would appear as if the track's really gone away from the drivers in the second half of the session. As I say, it's very, very moist in the air here this morning. Just wonder if that's now starting to make the track a little bit greasy, or certainly a little bit tricky to really warm up the Michelin tyre. So we're going to see improvements. They're going to have to happen in the next couple of moments or so. It's running downhill now towards the Bruxelles hairpin. There's Lucas Dunner, currently in 12th, and now we are seeing some improvements. And not unsurprisingly, it's Felipe Drugovich who's just gone quicker than anybody else through the first sector. So they're only really going to have time to complete this lap for the cars that we're following through Pouhon, and then do one more. So it's becoming almost single-shot shootout qualifying. Cameron Dass, having just emerged from the pits, is only going to get one shot, one more tilt at a time, maybe two, but it's going to be very, very marginal for the American. So Lucas Dunner on a good lap, Felipe Drugovich on a good lap. So is Marcus Siebert. Now Siebert goes quicker than anybody else through the middle sector. The Argentine for the Campos Racing team, he is at the back of the train. That's Felipe Drugovich. So Drugovich and Siebert not too far apart from each other, as Drugovich is tucked up behind Alex Karkozik. Karkozik currently 5th in the session, the Campos team, and the Polish driver was getting into wheel-to-wheel combat with Felipe Drugovich as they accelerate through. This is to start the final lap of the qualifying period now. So this is going to be thoroughly entertaining as Felipe Drugovich goes through, takes pole at 2 minutes 12.767 despite the traffic. The lap went away from Marcus Siebert in the final sector. He's up to 4th. And you just wonder how much quicker Felipe Drugovich could have gone were he not behind Alex Karkozik. Ominous once more for the rest of the field, as Felipe Drugovich always seems to be able to find those extra few tenths of a second to overhaul his rivals. Cameron Dass in 2nd there, Matthias Yorio 3rd, Marcus Siebert 4th, Guilherme Samaras leapt up to 5th, Alex Karkozik to 6th, Ben Vizcayl 7th, and the Dutchman really struggling actually through the second half of this session. Lucas Dunner 8th, Callum Williams 9th, and Janis Fitcher completing the top 10. And Drugovich is on another quick lap. This, the final lap of qualifying. For example, Felipe Drugovich 0.6 of a second quicker than Cameron Dass just through the first sector on this lap. Alex Karkozik, not entirely unsurprisingly, trying to stay in the wheel tracks of Felipe Drugovich, because that might be enough to propel Karkozik some way up the standings. Karkozik currently in 6th place, 0.9 of a second back from the car that he's pursuing around the circuit. Drugovich always just seems to have that RP Motorsport car beautifully hooked up in terms of traction. They're out to close onto the tail of Matthias Yorio. Yorio not improving through the middle sector, unlike Felipe Drugovich. Drugovich was 6 tenths quicker than Yorio just through the middle sector. This is going to potentially be a phenomenal lap for Felipe Drugovich relative to the rest of the field. As he turns through Blanchimont, pursuing Carlin Motorsport car of Matthias Yorio onto the brakes through the chicane once more. The checker flag comes out now. Cameron Dass has just snuck through for one more lap as this train of cars hurtles across the line. And Alex Karkozik goes 3rd. Siebert goes 2nd as they all pound through. So it is Felipe Drugovich who has gone quickest in the session. Marcus Siebert in 2nd. Cameron Dass currently 3rd. Janis Fitcher, a brilliant lap for the Drivex driver. He goes 4th. Alex Karkozik 5th. Matthias Yorio 6th. Lucas Dunner in 7th. Callum Williams 8th. Guilherme Samaras in 9th. Ben Vizcayl completes the top 10. The RP Motorsport team celebrating and applauding Felipe Drugovich into the pit lane. Beautifully managed. session for Drugovic, but it's not all over just yet, because Cameron Das was able to sneak through and snatch another lap from the session. Bent Viscal, Leonard Hogenboom, Michael Benyaya, Yves Baltas and Aldo Festante have all managed to do the same. So Drugovic out of the car and celebrating. I think it's unlikely that Cameron Das is going to overhaul him, but Das only 94 thousandths of a second adrift to Marcus Siebert may be able to yet sneak onto the front row of the grid. For RP Motorsport, this is turning into almost a replay of their 2017 campaign when it was Harrison Scott who couldn't put a wheel wrong. So far this year, Felipe Drugovic, victorious 3 times, very, very nearly, claiming the 4th. But Cameron Das has just set the fastest middle sector of the session. This isn't over if we can find the Carlin car as Drugovic celebrates. This is far from over. The Carlin Motorsport car, Cameron Das, is into the final sector of the lap and is going to be flashing through before too long. And there is Michael Benyaya. It's the car just behind him of Cameron Das, which is the one to watch for. There is Das in the blue Carlin car as he accelerates out of the chicane and across the line. Now, what can Cameron Das do on this final lap of the session? And he goes second at 2 minutes 12.4 for Das, within a quarter of a second of Felipe Drugovic. So the American driver very, very nearly putting a real sting in the tail of the qualifying period. But Felipe Drugovic does hold on to claim yet another pole position. Here's a look at our classification. Drugovic pole from Cameron Das in second. Marcus Siebert and Yanis Fitcher a very strong second row ahead of Alex Karkozic and Mateus Yorio. Lucas Dunner, the top rookie, in 7th, ahead of Callum Williams, well up in 8th. Guilherme Samara in 9th, and Bent Viscal slightly off the pace in the second half of the period. He will start from 10th. Into the second half of the field in a moment, with Len Hogenboom doing a great job on his debut to qualify 11th, ahead of RP Motorsport teammate Michael Benyaya in 12th. Christian Hahn, hopefully his car will be repaired and he can start from 13th, ahead of Yves Baltas and Aldo Festante. We will be back just after 2 o'clock Central European time this afternoon when we go racing here in Spa-Francorchamps. Until then, it's goodbye from Belgium.